For decades, Maury Povich stood at the center of family truth and DNA revelations. Calm voice, one envelope, and a sentence that could change lives forever. But some stories never made it to that famous stage. Some truths were too heavy even for the brightest studio lights. This is one of those stories. We were supposed to be the perfect family. 2 brothers, 2 wives, 2 children born 3 weeks apart. We lived on the same street. We had Sunday dinners together. Our kids grew up as cousins, as best friends, as 2 halves of the same childhood. For 16 years, I thought I knew exactly who my son was. I was wrong, and so was my brother. My name is Robert. I'm 44 years old. I've been married to my wife, Michelle, for 18 years. We have 1 son, or at least I thought we did. His name is Tyler. He's 16 now, tall, athletic, with a quick smile and a sharp mind. He's the center of my world. My younger brother, Vincent, is 42. He married his wife, Danielle, a year after I married Michelle. They also have 1 child, a daughter named Ava, also 16. Tyler and Ava, born 3 weeks apart, raised together, inseparable since birth. Cousins by blood, or so we believed. It started with a school project. Tyler's junior year biology class was doing a unit on genetics, blood types, inheritance patterns, Punnett squares, the same project that has destroyed countless families since DNA became something teenagers could study in high school. Tyler needed our blood types for his assignment. Simple enough. Michelle is type A, I'm type O. Tyler checked his medical records, type AB. He came to me with confusion in his eyes. Dad, I think there's a mistake. The records say I'm type AB. But if you're type O and mom is type A, that's not possible, right? I smiled. I told him hospital records get mixed up all the time. I told him not to worry about it. But that night, after Tyler went to bed, I couldn't sleep because he was right. It wasn't possible. I knew the basics of blood type inheritance. Type O is recessive. If I'm type O, I can only pass on the O gene. Michelle is type A, so she can pass on A or O. Our child should be type A or type O, never type AB. Type AB requires 1 A gene and 1 B gene. I don't have a B gene to give, which meant one of 2 things. Either the hospital had made a mistake, or I wasn't Tyler's biological father. I didn't tell Michelle, not yet, not until I knew for sure. I ordered a DNA paternity test online. I waited until Tyler was asleep, then swabbed his cheek with the collection kit. I swabbed my own cheek. I mailed both samples to the laboratory, and then I waited. 3 weeks felt like 3 years. Every time I looked at Tyler, I searched his face for signs of myself. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his jaw, the way he laughed. I had always thought he looked like Michelle's side of the family. Her father had the same broad shoulders. Her brother had the same easy smile. But now I wondered if I had been seeing what I wanted to see. The results arrived on a Thursday morning. Michelle was at work. Tyler was at school. I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope like it was a bomb that might explode. I opened it. I read the results, and the world stopped. 0% probability of paternity. Tyler was not my biological son. I read it again, and again, and again. 0%. Not a small chance. Not a margin of error. 0. The boy I had raised for 16 years. The boy I had taught to ride a bike, to throw a football, to drive a car. The boy I had cheered for at every basketball game, helped with every homework assignment, held when he cried after his first heartbreak. He wasn't mine. My first thought was Michelle. She must have cheated. There was no other explanation. Somewhere in the early years of our marriage, she had slept with another man, gotten pregnant, and passed the baby off as mine. The betrayal felt like a knife in my chest. But then I thought about the timeline. Tyler was born in June of 2008, which meant he was conceived around September of 2007. I tried to remember that time, what we were doing, where we were living, whether there had been any signs of infidelity. And then I remembered something else. September 2007, the lake house trip. Every year, our families spent Labor Day weekend at a lake house upstate. Robert and Michelle, Vincent and Danielle. 4 adults, 2 couples, 1 long weekend of swimming and barbecues and too much alcohol. That year, September 2007, had been particularly wild. We had rented a bigger house than usual. We had invited some friends. There had been a lot of drinking. I remembered waking up one morning with a pounding headache and only fragments of memory from the night before. I remembered Michelle acting strange for weeks afterward. I had assumed she was stressed about work. Now I wondered if there was another reason. I confronted Michelle that night. I waited until Tyler was at a friend's house studying for exams. The house was empty, silent, just the two of us and the truth that was about to destroy everything. I sat her down at the kitchen table, the same table where we had eaten 1,000 family dinners, celebrated birthdays, helped Tyler with homework, the same table where our life together was about to end. I placed the DNA results in front of her. Explain this! Michelle looked at the paper. I watched her face as she read the words, as the meaning sank in, as 16 years of secrets came crashing down around her. Her face went pale. Her hands started to shake. Robert, is Tyler my son? She didn't answer. She just stared at the paper like it might burst into flames. Michelle, look at me. Is Tyler my biological son? She finally raised her eyes to meet mine, and I saw something there I had never seen before. Guilt. I don't know, she whispered. I never knew for sure. She told me everything. The lake house trip, the night of heavy drinking, the blackout that left her with only fragments of memory, blurred images, disjointed sensations, a feeling of wrongness that she couldn't explain. She woke up the next morning in a bedroom that wasn't ours, confused, disoriented, with a pounding headache and a pit in her stomach. She couldn't remember how she got there. She couldn't remember what had happened. She told herself nothing had happened. She made herself believe it. Weeks later, when she realized she was pregnant, she pushed the doubt even further down. The baby was mine. It had to be mine. The alternative was too horrifying, too marriage-ending, too life-destroying to consider. I never knew for certain, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I told myself it was yours. I made myself believe it. Every time I looked at Tyler, I saw you. I saw us. I saw our family. But you suspected. I didn't want to know. I couldn't handle knowing. Who? I asked. My voice was ice. Who else could be the father? Michelle looked down at the table. Her shoulders were shaking, and then she said a name that made my blood turn to ice. Vincent. My brother, my own brother, had slept with my wife. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to drive to Vincent's house and beat him until he couldn't stand. But then another thought cut through the anger. If Vincent was Tyler's biological father, then what about Ava? Ava, who was born just 3 weeks after Tyler. Ava, who had always looked more like me than like Vincent. Ava, who had my eyes, my nose, my stubborn streak that drove everyone crazy. I called Vincent. We need to talk, now! Something in my voice must have told him this was serious, because he didn't argue. He just said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. He arrived looking nervous, guilty. Like a man who knew exactly why he had been summoned. I didn't waste time with small talk. Did you sleep with Michelle at the lake house in 2007? Vincent's face crumbled. Robert, I'm so sorry. Did you? We were drunk, both of us. I barely remember it. I've regretted it every day since. Tyler isn't my son. The words hung in the air between us. Vincent stared at me. What? I took a DNA test. Tyler is not my biological child, which means he's probably yours. Vincent sat down heavily like his legs had given out. Oh, God. But here's what I need to know, I continued. Did you also sleep with Danielle that weekend? Or did something happen with her and me? Vincent looked up sharply. What are you talking about? If you slept with Michelle and Tyler isn't mine, then maybe Ava isn't yours either. The truth came out in pieces. Danielle was called. More confessions, more tears. That weekend at the lake house, everyone had been blackout drunk. Inhibitions had disappeared. Boundaries had been crossed. Vincent had slept with Michelle, and I had slept with Danielle. Neither couple remembered clearly. Both had buried the memories, convinced themselves it hadn't really happened, moved on with their lives. But the consequences were growing up in our houses, calling us dad, believing they knew exactly who they were. We ordered more DNA tests. Vincent swabbed Tyler's cheek. I swabbed Ava's cheek. We sent the samples to the same laboratory. 3 weeks later, the results results confirmed our worst fears. Vincent was Tyler's biological father. I was Ava's biological father. For 16 years, we had raised each other's children. The revelation nearly destroyed both families. Marriages were shattered. Trust was obliterated. Four adults who had been best friends, who had raised their children side by side, who had built their lives around each other, suddenly couldn't be in the same room. Michelle and I separated. Vincent and Danielle did the same. But the hardest part wasn't the adults. The hardest part was telling the children. How do you tell a 16-year-old that his father isn't his father? How do you sit down with a boy who trusts you completely and explain that everything he believed about his identity was wrong? How do you tell him that the man who raised him, who taught him everything he knows, who loved him unconditionally for every moment of his life, is actually his uncle? How do you explain that his cousin is actually his half-sister? That his real father has been at every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every birthday party, sitting right across the table, never saying a word? Tyler didn't speak to me for 3 months after we told him. He was angry. Of course he was angry. His entire world had been turned upside down. Everything he thought he knew about himself, his family, his genetics, his very identity, had been revealed as a lie. He spent weeks in his room refusing to come out except for school. He stopped playing basketball. He stopped talking to his friends. He looked at me like I was a stranger. And in a way, I was. I wasn't the man he thought I was. I wasn't his biological father. I was just a man who had raised him, loved him, been there for every moment of his life. But none of that seemed to matter anymore. I couldn't blame him for being angry. I was angry too. But I never stopped showing up. I never stopped knocking on his door. I never stopped telling him I loved him even when he wouldn't respond, because that's what fathers do. Real fathers. The kind that DNA can't define. Ava took it differently. When Vincent told her the truth, she cried for hours, but then she came to find me. "You're my biological father," she said. "Yes. But Vincent raised me. He's still my dad." "Yes, he is." She was quiet for a moment. "So I have 2 dads now?" I didn't know what to say, but she answered her own question. "I think I'm okay with that." It took 2 years for the families to find a new normal. 2 years of therapy. 2 years of painful conversations. 2 years of slowly rebuilding what had been shattered. Michelle and I tried to make the marriage work. We went to counseling every week. We talked about forgiveness, about moving forward. But some deep damage can't be repaired. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal. Every time she looked at me, she saw the same. In the end, we divorced. We share custody of Tyler, even though biologically I'm not his father, but I'm still his dad. I raised him. I love him. I always will. A DNA test doesn't erase 16 years. Vincent and Danielle also divorced. They share custody of Ava. But Ava and I have built our own relationship too. We have lunch once a week. We talk on the phone. I'm learning who my biological daughter is, even though I missed her childhood. Tyler and Ava know the truth now. They know they're half-siblings, not cousins. They know their parents made terrible mistakes, but they also know they're loved by all of us. Vincent and I don't speak much anymore. The friendship is gone. The brotherhood is fractured. There's too much pain, too much betrayal, too many memories that can't be erased, but we still show up for the kids. We still sit in the same bleachers at Tyler's basketball games. We still attend Ava's school plays. We still do what fathers do, even when we're not sure what father means anymore. Tyler asked me something last year. He was 17, almost a man. He had finally started talking to me again, slowly rebuilding the relationship that the DNA test had nearly destroyed. "Do you regret raising me?" he asked, "knowing I'm not really yours?" I looked at my son, because that's what he is, DNA be damned, and then I told him the truth. "You are really mine. You've been mine since the day you were born. Biology is just science, but love is a choice, and I choose you every single day." Tyler hugged me for the first time in 2 years, and I knew that whatever else had been destroyed, this was still real. For decades, Maury Povich stood at the center of family truth and DNA revelations. Calm voice, one envelope, and a sentence that could change lives forever. But this story didn't need a stage. It only needed 2 brothers willing to keep being fathers, even when the DNA said otherwise, even when the truth destroyed everything they thought they knew. Because fatherhood isn't about blood, it's about showing up.